Well, hello, welcome to our continuing Bible devotional. We're currently looking at the book of Ephesians, and we're now in Ephesians chapter 5. But the Apostle Paul's still discussing what he was discussing toward the second half of chapter 4, and that is, what does it look like to walk in true holiness and righteousness? What does it look like to put on the new self created to be like God, to walk in the kind of life, the newness of life that God has equipped us to walk in, to live by? Well, he continues that mindset in the first part of chapter 5, that instruction in the first part of chapter 5, where he says this: "Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children." And that's a very general idea, but basically he's saying, how should Christians live? How should they behave? What should be their attitude? Well, in every way, Christians should be like God. Not talking about deity, not talking about omnipotent or omnipresent or omniscient or anything of that nature, but it means God's character in his love, his purity, his holiness, his righteousness. We are to be an imitator of God. So I see the nature of God. He's extremely forgiving, loving, patient, merciful, ever ready to restore people who've fallen short, willing to sacrifice even for those who are in need. And so when the Bible says be an imitator of God, I have a whole 66 books of the Bible that show me what God is like, and this is how I should be in my relationship to other people. You are a child of God. Children should have the same DNA and the same characteristics of their Father. Well, God is our Father. And as beloved children, as it says there in verse 1, we should be imitators who want to be like our Father. Well, what does that look like in particular? Well, he tells us in verse 2, he says, "And walk in love." Walk in love as Christ loved us, and he gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. So he's saying, ultimately, to be an imitator of God means you have to walk in love. You have to be just the person who's willing to say, you know what, just like Jesus, even though he was rejected, insulted, betrayed, forsaken, he looked at the very people who were doing all of those things toward him, and he died for them. He gave his life, and he gave up his life for them. He gave himself up for us. And that's what it means to walk in love. That's what it means to be an imitator of God. It means you toward the people, all people, but particularly those people who are the very people that you might want to be angry about, that you might want to slander, that you might want to punch in the face. Those very people are the people that you should be saying, you know what? To be an imitator of God means I'm willing to sacrifice for them, whether that's financial sacrifice, give up my time for them, pray for them, not against them. That's what it means to walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. And then he reminds them, when Christ made that sacrifice, whom many people would call foolish, when he made that sacrifice for the very people who were insulting him and falsely accusing him and rejecting him, God looked at that sacrifice as a fragrant offering, as an acceptable sacrifice. And he's saying for us, I believe the idea here is that when we walk in love and we make sacrifices for others, those people may never appreciate it or even recognize it. But God looks at it and says, that's an offering I'm pleased with. That's a sacrifice that delights me. When we walk in love, that pleases God, and that should be enough for us to strive to walk in love. We'll pick it up in verse 3 in our next devotional. Have a blessed day.